If you've been waiting for us to be a little bit more technical in our spotlights, then this one today is for you. I got a chance to speak with Benjamin Maxim, who is the Assistant Vice President of Digital Strategy and Innovation at Michigan State University Federal Credit Union. Let's just call him Ben for short. If you're a fan of design thinking or Eric Ries, the Lean Startup, or the Startup Way, I think you'll really enjoy how Ben and his team approach innovation. For me personally, I enjoyed the slightly more technical conversation around fintech partnerships and more of the technology that makes these fintech partnerships happen, otherwise known as fintech integrations. A super interesting conversation. We also touched on how all of these fintech partnerships could, over time, present a challenge for financial institutions with regard to how they create a unified digital customer experience. I feel like this introduction has been mouthful after mouthful. I can't wait for you to see this interview with Ben. Let's jump in. So Ben, welcome to the show. You're a financial services innovator by definition, and I'm super excited about our discussion today. So welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, glad to be here. Looking forward to our conversation.
So do me a favor, go ahead and introduce yourself to the FSI community and tell us about your role.
Absolutely. My name is Ben Maxim. I'm the Assistant Vice President of Digital Strategy and Innovation at Michigan State University Federal Credit Union, which is a big mouthful to say all at once. But I've been in this role since January of this year. Prior to that, I've been at the credit union about 13 years in total, first 12 of which were part of the software development team. Started as a developer, worked my way up as that team grew, and became the manager, then AVP of that team. And then culminating and moving over to this role where my focus is on evaluating emerging technology and fintech specifically, looking at different solutions out there in the industry to help accelerate our own strategic goals as an organization, and find ways to pilot and get those in front of our members for their feedback as quickly as possible.
That's awesome. I love your role. I have a million questions for you. But let's first talk about your title. So you have both digital strategy and innovation in your title. So how do you differentiate these two terms, and how related are they?
Absolutely. So definitely a lot of overlap between the two. A lot of our focus right now is digital innovation, but we didn't want to limit it to just digital, so we separated that out. So really looking at the future of digital, some of that's innovation, some of that's just taking advantage of opportunity that's out there. Incremental change, all of that probably is innovation as well. I have a counterpart that is our AVP of Research and Digital Experience. She handles more of the here and now. I handle kind of the more forward thinking down the road. Look at digital, how do we take advantage of emerging digital platforms? Do we look at voice, AR, VR, and things that aren't yet invented, and how we're going to interact with our digital banking? Is it on our refrigerator, in our Tesla, whatever it is? How do we figure some of this stuff out as it comes available?
Cool. So let's do a quick pop quiz. We totally did not plan for this. Define innovation for me. Give me your version of that definition.
Absolutely. So I like to share a quote from Henry Ford that kind of inspires me and kind of really, I think sinks home. I think he's one of our great innovators, and also, grew up in the Detroit area. So, also highlight him as a local innovator. But, thinking back to when he was, inventing the car, innovating on, technology that existed, if you were to go out and ask people what they wanted at the time, they would have said faster horses. So he took the concept that, they wanted to move quicker, the mobility needed to be faster, and came up with a new way to do it. And really it's, bringing incremental change. Sometimes it's, evolutionary. Other times it's, kind of the overnight change, the Big Bang experience. But more often than not, innovation is really just improving on, what you had yesterday, making today's experience better.
So MSUFCU built its own mobile app 11 years ago, right? 2009, almost 12 years ago. now. So give us a little bit of that history really quick. Tell us where that mobile app is now.
Absolutely. So yeah, I went to a conference to learn how to make rich internet applications. They had this really cool extra track about iPhone development, and I came back after sitting through all of that, riveted to my boss, who's now our CEO, and said, "Hey, I think we should build our own iPhone app." And she's of the same kind of innovation mindset as myself, and was like, let's do it. What do you need to do so?" And she gave me the opportunity to figure out what it would take to do so. We needed to get some things in shape, so we started conceptualizing it, started building. Later in 2009, 2010, we also needed to bring our online banking in house as well. So we had it all under one roof. So we did all the work to build out the APIs that we would use to build out the app, and then launched to our members in September 2012. Which, a couple of weeks later, we actually hit number 37 on the App Store in the finance category, which was pretty exciting. So that was a highlight of the career for sure along the way. Since we launched with remote deposit capture as one of the big features. So and now that's kind of become synonymous with that's table stakes in the innovation game, or the mobile game, where we were doing a couple $100,000 worth of volume, scanning checks with desktop scanners. We did multiple $1 million a month with that very quickly. So we built on that success. We've built a couple other things along the way. More recently, we introduced member-to-member transactions similar to a Venmo, PayPal situation, where you get the member's phone number, email, send the funds across just like you would with those. But luckily, we're all within the same walls, so the money can move instantly, and you don't have to wait for anything to clear for Venmo to send it to your account a few days later. So that's been exciting. We launched that in 2019. So that's been a huge driver of further digital adoption. And then also recently put our member-facing chatbot, Fran, in our mobile app last fall.
So most recently, Michigan State University launched its Fintech Innovation Center, which it calls the Lab. Tell us more about that. I understand there's a relationship here.
Yeah, absolutely. So the lab at MSUFCU, the long name, the Lab for short, is our way to play in the fintech space. So it's an opportunity for us to bring in employees to help try out fintechs, bring them into our ecosystem, see where they fit, see how they fit best for our members, and also bring in our members on the other side, and really be the opportunity for us to get early in development products to our members. They don't have an expectation that they're going to work perfectly, that they've been developed over months and months. So we're able to get something in front of our members very quickly. We're working to recruit members to join kind of an ever present member panel, where as these opportunities come up, we invite them to join, and we also have it available for people to join and a specific pilot. So we have a variety of things from fraud prevention, digital engagement, student loan payoff, insights into your banking, products recommendations, next best offers. We've got a lot of things that we're exploring. Most of those fit into categories of increasing digital engagement, promoting digital human interaction. So using technology to connect our employees to our members. Operational efficiency, personalization, financial wellness is a huge thing. There are a lot of people, in addition to health crisis, going through a financial crisis as well. So how do we help their financial well-being and provide them the tools they need to be successful financially, both now and in the future? So we're focusing on a lot of those. There are a lot of fintechs out there that offer products that they do really, really well for a smaller set of our members, and we're able to use the lab to see which ones are the best fit for those groups.
Great. So Ben, let's take a step back and talk about your role. First and foremost, how has it evolved over the years?
Yeah, absolutely. So, starting as a developer, doing some of the innovation kind of as a side project, more organically. Digital was not necessarily seen as, something other than a cost center in a lot of institutions when I started. But we were coming, through the time of everyone, Facebook was getting started, Amazon was growing and, getting pretty dominant. Twitter was now coming out, the iPhone got out there. And really, I think, the move to mobile really sparked a new realm of innovation, and the need to be digital and do a lot of innovation in that regard. The way we did business changed completely when the iPhone, Android devices came out. And now everyone's got a supercomputer, if you want to call that, in their pocket. So how do you interact with them everywhere they are? You get a lot more sensor information. You get a lot more data. There's been a huge data revolution. How do we monetize that? How do we use insights from data to do more than just for Netflix to know what I want to watch next, or for Amazon to tell me what I should buy? But really, how do we help improve people's financial situation? With the ability to harness that data and get them, not products and services that we want to sell them, but ones that really fit their lifestyle, fit their needs, and really be a partner with them as they go through different stages of their life. I think being able to tap into that and understanding what our members needs is huge. And I think understanding what they need digitally and understanding that they're interacting in retail, when they order food, when they do all these things, that's how they're experiencing the world now. They would like a similar experience when they interact with their financial institution, when they interact with, I think when you used to interact with the post office, you would, expect a similar, there's a teller line looking thing, you walk in, you do that. Bank, you come in, there's a teller line looking thing. That's how we used to do business. Now all that stuff's digital. How do you interact digitally? We're learning from each other in different industries to do that well.
So Ben, you've shared with me that you have a rather sizable team of software developers at your organization. If you were to look at the type of work that they're doing today and compare the type of work that they were doing a few years ago, or maybe 5 years ago, are they exactly the same? If not, what's different?
Yeah, so I think before we were making a website, we were maintaining a website. There's not all that much back end coding, heavy processing going into some of that. Now a lot of full blown applications are all based on web based technologies. So you can do a lot of stuff. There are things that we've done over the years where we're supporting business function. We've created an ordering system for our internal purchasing team to use to manage that, and employees request things. We've done a lot of API development. I think that's been the biggest evolution over time, is being able to understand and connect all these different services together. We were doing a lot of it ourselves in the beginning. There weren't all that many resources out there. Right now, there's a lot of platforms that you can have a starting point.
Yeah, we were joking around earlier in the pre-call about how they're almost like Legos in a lot of ways. They're obviously not all the same, and they're not perfectly interchangeable the way that Legos are. As banks continue to partner with fintechs and leveraging various financial technologies, is that process or practice, is that innovation in banking now?
Yeah, so I think it's a component, and it allows you to achieve innovation, but that in itself does not, you can pull a bunch of fintechs together, but that doesn't necessarily mean you've innovated. A lot of them solve some basic foundational digital needs, sometimes with a better experience than you can create yourself. But I think pulling them together and then having a true strategy behind what you're pulling together, what are you actually trying to achieve with those? If you don't understand what you're trying to achieve, then you may not be innovating with them. You need to understand, what do your members need? Are you just finding something that looks cool, or are you actually providing an incremental improvement in the lives of your members, customers, even your employees that serve those individuals?
Makes perfect sense. So I know you're a huge fan of the book, The Startup Way by Eric Ries. How has that book impacted the way that you approach what you do and your role?
Absolutely. So kind of early on, when I was moving into this role, trying to figure out what is a framework, where do I get started, I stumbled across that book, started reading it, and I'm not really a big a book reader, and it kept me riveted the whole way through. So the concept, very simply, of the follow on from that, from his lean startup, of build, measure, learn. It's a simple framework. You build something, you measure it, and then you learn from it. Like, can't get any simpler than that. I think there's a lot of guidance in that book where it talks about, being a corporate entrepreneur, and how do you, take the lessons from lean startup and how you apply them at different corporate groups. And really the lessons learned there, they felt very real, very relatable, and you could you could see, why it was successful to kind of follow this pattern. And really, for innovation to be successful within the corporate structure, you need to be able to tell the story of what you've done and how it was successful. And then also very early on, I, from the lessons in that book, learned that you got to set the expectation that we're doing this to learn. We may fail, but in failure, we're learning lessons that are very valuable to the future of what we want to do. We either learn that we don't want to do that, we learn that we need to do it this way and pivot. And we're not taking risk beyond where we need to go. I think another thing that was huge in their concept that I've used to help kind of get some traction as well is the VC funding model, where you say, hey, please invest this much in this technology. We're going to do this much, see how it does. Okay, that went well. Now let's take it to the next step. So also having some checkpoints to say, hey, this isn't working. We've learned our lessons. We're done. Or, hey, this went well. This is why I want you to invest in it further, versus the initial ask being, hey, I want to spend a year, working on this, when I can say, hey, let me take 3 months. This is what I plan to prove out in these 3 months. This is what I proved. Let's continue. And that's the model that related very well to what we're doing, and some stuff that from agile methodologies and other things I had been employing in the software development side for years. It was a natural fit and next step in what we were trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Let's stay at the higher level, or maybe the philosophical level,
Sure.
if you will. You've also established that you're a huge fan of design thinking.
Yep.
I've sometimes heard folks spin design thinking as innovation, or design thinking is innovation. Obviously, it is a tool that can drive innovation. I've also heard definitions of innovation and seen practices of innovation where design thinking is completely missing. So why do you love design thinking so much? Why is it so important? And how would you define it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, why I love it so much, it really puts your end user, the human element to it. It really is human centric, and it really is a way to put your user in the process and really think about how they're going to use your product. I think as a developer over time, I've learned that, there's a way that developers want to build things. There's a way engineers want to build things, where they may take the lazy route. They may be like, well, this is easier for me to code. This is easier for me to do updates to it later. But sometimes you take that extra step to understand how the user would actually use it. And design thinking allows you to do that. My innovation program consists of things borrowed from design thinking, lean startup, and then agile as well. Knowing that it takes more than just one or the other to truly have innovation, and pulling the elements that fit for our company's culture and skill set, and really pulling on those is huge. A few years into my manager career, the dev team, I created our UX team, user experience team, and that's where my love of design thinking started there. I think it really gives you a framework. It lets you challenge assumptions. It really makes your design, data based. It's not based on your gut feel anymore. You have something to say, this is why we're doing it this way. It can't really be argued with, because you say it's successful. And, that can lead to innovation, but it can also, just be how you lay things out on the page as well. So you really need to use it as a way, and it's not the only way to accomplish innovation either. Absolutely.
So for those folks who are new at design thinking and curious, give us a snapshot into your day-to-day or your innovation model. Tell us what design thinking actually looks like.
Absolutely. So, there's a process to it. We focus on empathizing with the users. That's the first stage. So, there's lots of resources out there. There's a resource that Stanford's D School puts out. It's like the Design Thinking Boot Camp. That's where design thinking came from long ago. So, great resource. It's free. It's available. Just download it. But really, it starts by figuring out what does your user need. Then you figure out how to build something from that, and then test it, and then you're validating, kind of what you built out all along the way. And this can be a quick process. We bring in our UX team to our innovation workshops, and we will go through a design sprint. There's a lot of resources out there what those look like as well. Google's got a lot. I think they pioneered the design sprint. So we do some activities where we get you thinking. We get you thinking, kind of broad. And what are all the possibilities, and how do we narrow it down to something we can actually build and test and measure the success of? and you have to test it with users. You can't just say, hey, we think this is what it is. We now have something, and it may be a drawing on a piece of paper, it may be a digital prototype. You may have, if you can quickly code something that's kind of rough around the edges but can get the point across. But allow people to figure out what is the customer journey, what is the different steps that the user will go through, and how do you refine each of those.
So Ben, we've talked about this idea, representing fintechs as Legos. Certainly, it's much more complex than that, but it paints a picture, and might help our community kind of understand or envision potentially the world of banking as it's continuing to evolve. If in fact banking continues to partner with more and more fintechs, it seems to me like you would need some sort of integration layer to keep all of the Legos or fintechs in sync. How do you accomplish that?
Yeah, so I think we can look at what's going on out there currently with things like the latest release of iOS, where you can build your home screen with a bunch of widgets from different developers. They have guidelines to help make that seem and feel more consistent, so you're in an iOS app versus an Android app. And Android's done this as well over time, is you're able to customize that experience. And you're basically having a platform, which I think banking will become the platform, and the different institutions will have the platform where these different services will connect into and provide the solutions for their members, customers. In the extent, for us, I had a conversation with one of my colleagues today about how do we, as we bring in more of these fintechs, where do we have them sit? And really, we control the interface, but then we have these API connections that pull in the data. So some of the fintechs we're exploring right now, we use their white label version. It doesn't make sense for us to pull every single element from that into our ecosystem, but rather the things that our members care about and need at their fingertips, we bring into our app and our digital platforms, and then things they want to go deeper in, they then link out to the others. And I think, this will be a personalization thing. I'm sure we don't have the same apps on our phones, and very similar, we'll choose different fintechs that are important to what we need to manage our finances and our financial life. And, we may, as an institution, offer 50 integrations, and, you may choose 10 of them, I choose 8 of them, and they're going to be a different mix. I think being able to provide an integration layer, there's some work being done with open banking, with Plaid and Finicity and Yodlee, but there's also, the opportunity for banks to open up and be a more open platform themselves, and, not just us code into the API, but the companies being able to code back to us and then exchange information that way.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned the magic word, APIs. What are some of the challenges that you face and your team faces sewing together all of these APIs? I'm just imagining, and I don't want to portray it in any way in a negative light, but I'm imagining potentially the technical debt or the complexity over time might compound. Is that something you're preparing for?
Absolutely. So I think, as they became available and we headed down this path, we everything's been a one-off connection, right? We've had a unique connection to each of these partners, and there are things like OAuth out there that are available to standardize what does that single sign-on look like, and by taking advantage and building out what does our OAuth platform look like, we can then more readily work between connections. And the more we build that are just a little bit different because a different developer worked on it, then the person that has to go pick it up 2 years later to make an update or something, that becomes a challenge. But really, overall, having a strategy behind it, is the best way to solve it. Understanding that integration layer and building it out in a way that the front end doesn't have to worry about what's going on with all these integrations. It can still do what it needs to do, but then this layer is what actually handles them all together. So architecting the system in a way that allows for more robust connection. The actual integration to an API is usually pretty simple. You connect, all the firewalls are opened up. Great, we made the connection, first connection. But maintaining and understanding as a developer what was the use and the purpose of that API. And often, if we're replacing UI elements from another service, what did that UI element do that now we're trying to build into our own platform? Did we lose that along the way? And then as we bring in more and more of these Lego pieces, do we still maintain our identity as an institution? We made a choice long ago to, build and hire developers versus, buy all our software. So how do we maintain that while still making all these connections and making it feel like you're within the walls of the credit union?
So when we created FSI, or Financial Services Innovators, the LinkedIn group, earlier in 2020, we actually took the time to identify what are our key persona, who do we want to attract, who do we want to help, and our key persona looks a lot like you. In fact, I'm going to grab a screenshot, get your picture, and put you on our persona. But anyway, thanks again, Ben, for being a part of the community. Let me ask you this. If you had one wish and could make one thing easier, less painful, what would it be?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to cheat and answer that with two answers. One, a more standardized way to make integrations. Again, open banking, has done a lot with connections with Plaid and other things, and some of these, standards for single sign-ons. So really, us as institutions taking advantage of those, making sure we're working together there. And then really that allows for speed to market, make it a quicker interaction. We can exchange the data, the keys, and then we're off and running and testing with our users. The other part of that is, there's a lot of fintechs out there. There seems to be more and more popping up every day. How do we vet them? There's services out there where you can, get a lot of research, and a lot of it is financial or investment based. But, how do I know about their company culture? What are they trying to achieve? Do they understand credit unions? Are they looking for investment? Are they looking for someone to partner with to be their first client? Where do they fall? And I think there's some pieces out there, but I think it would be nice to have a one-stop shop that doesn't have all the overhead of some of the other things, like some of the bigger research firms where you buy this massive subscription to get everything when there's a lot of great data there. But some of the key pieces, in fintech specifically, aren't always readily available.
A couple of rapid fire questions for you, Ben.
Okay.
First, how important is the customer?
Yeah, I think customer is absolutely essential. In our case, we call them members, or we've been a member-centric institution since our founding in 1937. That's extended on to every piece of technology we've added into our ecosystem. The member always is at the key and the heart of what we're trying to create.
And how important is the digital member experience or digital customer experience?
Absolutely. So, as a university-based credit union, we have a number of individuals who leave the university community after they graduate, or they're faculty and they go all over the world. So, we have about 14% of our members living out of state or out of country, and then we also have roughly 80,000 members that only interact with us through digital channels at this point. So they're not coming into branches, they're not calling us on the phone. So our only way to engage with them is through digital. So the digital experience has become paramount to our success. And the events of this year, people who were unwilling to try digital before COVID are now avid users of it. They still use the other channels. They didn't stop using digital once they could go back to coming in and visiting us or calling us. So we've expanded that digital experience to more of our members as well.
So how do you know that the digital experience is working well?
Yeah, so I think the fact that we have so many that are only interacting with digitally, I don't think that's necessarily by choice. I think it's because it's out of preference. There's something working well there that are allowing them to choose that over needing to do some of the other options. We also, measure the engagement. We're looking for people to come back. How many active, monthly users and all those great digital engagement stats that we're doing. Mm-hmm. As we roll out new features. We're starting to measure things like, where do they abandon an application? Where do they abandon a form? Where are they using the different elements that we thought they were in these new fintech apps that we're rolling out? Are they actually completing, the actions that we are expecting them to? So not only do they download it, and that's our only metric, or use it, page visits, whatever, but what are the actual things they're doing along the way?
Is there any specific trend that you see unfolding in financial services that you're most excited about for 2021?
Yeah, I hope there's a little bit more traction in 2021, but this is maybe a little bit longer term a trend. But IoT is out there in the industry. We have 5G coming out. Everything's gonna be more connected. What other ways are we going to be able to interact with our our finances. I think contextual banking is probably the one that's 2021 that kind of fits into this, where you walk into your Amazon Go store, you walk out, the payment just happened in the background. You get into your Uber, payment happened in the background. You ordered lunch from Grubhub the other day. It just all happened. I hit express reorder. It's on my doorstep. So I don't have to worry about, how I'm paying for things anymore. So I think that's, one thing. Again, how do we make sure that all the technology works together, but how do we not get lost in all that? And it's not like, people forget that they need us. I think that's the one thing that we need to make sure to, as we support that move to contextual banking, that we're still a huge part of that experience and making it frictionless, really. So we aren't the negative part of that experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. So anything else you'd like to highlight for our FSI community that we haven't touched on yet today?
Yeah, I think, just kind of more broadly, I think some things go on in the world. We have a health crisis. We also have a economic crisis going on as well. So a lot of what we're trying to do as a community-based financial institution is create products and services and provide digital opportunities for our members to get themselves in a better financial state, help them through the here and now, and survive, and working as a partner with them. But then also, how do we set them up for success as they move forward in their financial futures? So I think that's something that we can all do as an industry to really help move the country forward and get out of what we're going through right now.
Awesome, Ben. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.